The chair has multiple functions. It can function according to your ability to image events or timelines, but it can also be programmed to recognize a specific frequency that you might think of as a specific time, day, and place. So you chose the place I went to? You say, trying to come up with the best possible questions, so Trevor will continue giving you answers. Not exactly, says Trevor. You have your own frequency, and the chair can search out your frequency at different times in history. What do you mean, different times in history? You say, at a loss. Are you saying you believe in past lifetimes? And that I was seeing myself thousands of years ago? Trevor looks at you for a moment, as if measuring your capacity for mental comprehension. Then something in her face changes, and she says, "Do you know you're playing a game?" Bewildered, you say, well, kind of. I mean, I've heard that Earth is a virtual reality, but I don't really understand what that means. Trevor's face softens as she smiles slightly and says, "Not many people do. Can you get your head around the idea that your body is your avatar?" "Yes." "Then, do you understand that you are not your body?" "Yes," you say hesitantly. Good. Think of it this way. Your unique frequency, can be tuned into just like turning a radio dial. I can set the Montauk chair program to your frequency and then add the date and time, and the chair will locate you. So, the woman I saw, Sasha, she was my avatar, and that was me playing that game? Trevor nods. So, where are you sending me this time? I don't know. I only program in the date and time. Well, how do you decide that? You say curiously. Thomas decides everything in regard to the Montauk chair. Now that's all I can tell you, says Trevor with a bit more kindness than usual. You have a head full of questions, but you can tell that Trevor isn't going to say another word. So you sit and wait to see what is next. But this time, there is no shimmering golden light or disappearing room. Your eyes open. You're sitting on soft grass, with morning sunlight sparkling on the pond in front of you. As if you had suddenly awakened from a dream, you can't make sense of what you're seeing. Yet somehow you know you're in your Sasha avatar again. But it's years later because your hair is now down to your waist. As you observe your surroundings, you can feel that this was your home in your game lifetime as Sasha. On one side of the pond is a forest with majestic cedar, birch, aspen, and spruce trees. In another direction, wildflowers grow amidst a small vegetable garden with a beehive. In the distance is an orchard with bird cherry and wild apple trees filled with fruit. Just beyond the orchard is a long fence composed of raspberry bushes, which surround the property. The delicately scented air is fresh and cool. In the next moment, you hear running through the forest. A barefooted 5-year-old boy, wearing a light woven tunic and trousers, shoots out of the woods, hotly pursued by a wolf. The boy runs up the side of the tree, pushes himself off with his legs, and somersaults over in a backflip. Landing on his feet, he runs off in the opposite direction, laughing as the wolf's inertia causes her to continue running past the tree. Smiling, the lad strides up to you and says brightly, "Mama Sasha, I have a present for you." He digs into his pocket and produces a ripe red apple which he hands to you. "Thank you, Alexei," you say, tousling his curly strawberry blonde hair as you look lovingly into his sparkling green eyes. At the same moment, the wolf sneaks up and licks Alexi's hand. Laughing, he cuffs her on the neck and shoots off in the direction of a huge cedar tree. He runs up the side of the tree and somersaults as he had before, but this time the wolf knows what to expect. Before he reaches the tree, she slows down and then sits on her haunches until he hits the ground. Then she licks his arm and takes off. Alexei tries over and over again to outsmart the wolf, but he can't. Finally, he flops down next to you, utterly frustrated. Kindly, you say, "Alexei, first you need to train your thought. You have to think through any moves you're going to make. Actually try to feel them before you do them."
"But I've already done that, Mama,"
says Alexei hopelessly. "Well, sweetheart," you say, "it's not just your thought. You have to take into consideration what the wolf is thinking. See it in your mind and then act accordingly." First, Alexei tries running twice as fast, but the wolf is quicker, and no matter what Alexei does, the wolf knows the trick and can anticipate what is to come. Finally, he walks up to you, looks you in the eye, and says imploringly,
"Can you give me a hint?"
Before you can even ask the question, the answer must already exist. Alexei keeps staring at you. In order for you to ask the question, what is 2 plus 2, the answer 4 already exists. If you think there's no answer to your problem, then you can't find the answer. But if you realize that an answer already exists, and if you'll think more quickly, you'll discover you can think faster than the wolf. And when you do, she won't be able to catch you. Suddenly, Alexei's face lights up. He dashes headlong toward the tree with the wolf only a few feet behind him. As he approaches the tree, the wolf slows down to wait for him to leap into the air and somersault off the tree. Alexei does leap into the air, but this time his body passes within an inch of the trunk, and he keeps running while the bewildered wolf sits wondering where Alexei has gone. Alexei comes back glowing.
"I got it! I thought quickly for myself. But I had to think more quickly than the wolf could think for herself. And then I put it all together at just the right time. The wolf will never be faster than me again."
He then takes off and performs a whole series of tricks. The wolf is completely unable to catch him. Finally, Alexei sits down next to you and says confidentially,
"I know you have a secret. Will you tell me now?"
You laugh and look proudly at your son. "Yes."
"Today's the day, isn't it?"
"Yes, it is, my darling," you say warmly. "Come lie next to me, and we shall go together as our second selves." Lying in the fragrant grass, you hold hands, and you feel the warm sensation of leaving your body. But there is no sense of movement. You are instantly standing with your son in a place you remember well. You are standing on the very same cliff where you first saw the Imperial Roman army. And the Romans have returned. This time, there are at least 10,000 troops spread across the valley, as far as the eye can see.
"They look like ants,"
says Alexei lightly.
"Is this the same army the Vedras warriors fought?"
"Not exactly," you say. "They are from Rome, but these are different men."
"How do you know some of them aren't the same?"
Alexei asks curiously. "That is an excellent question, Alexei," you say, smiling as you look deeply into your son's eyes. "Well, after the battle, we formed a group. There are several of us who now keep track of what's going on in Rome.
Is it dangerous?
Asks Alexei wide-eyed. No, sweetheart, you say comfortingly. It's not dangerous at all. We never leave the forest. We go to Rome as our second selves, so we're invisible to the Romans. But we have access to everything from conversations to secret communications.
So how do you know that none of the soldiers down there were here before?
When the army left after the battle, we took turns tracking the commander until he led us back to Rome. We listened to everything he told Caesar. Not one man was willing to go to war. Even the commander himself refused to ever fight again. When the commander left, Caesar ordered every man in the battalion to be sent to a different part of the empire, and each soldier was ordered to never speak of what happened, or else they would be killed. For generations, a diary has been passed down from one Caesar to the next. I saw it myself. In the diary, he warns the future Caesars to leave the Vedrus alone. But when Caesar died, his successor saw him as a coward and decided to try again. But to be on the safe side, he doubled the size of his army.
So you knew they were coming?
Says Alexei wide-eyed. Yes, we've known for quite some time, you say warmly. It takes a long time for an army to get here.
So what are we going to do?
Says Alexei enthusiastically.
Are the Vedrus warriors riding into battle again? Can I watch?
He adds hopefully. No, something much better than that, you whisper secretively. It's just going to be you and me.
Really?
Says Alexei, hugging you.
So what's the plan?
I'm going to pretend to be your big sister, you say as if you're unwrapping a gigantic present for him. And we're going to deliver a message to the commander-in-chief of the army. Alexei lights up as if every wish he'd ever dreamed had come true in that moment.
Mamochka, people always think you're my sister,
he squeals, jumping up and down in delight. I know, you say smiling. That's what made me think of it.
What about Papa? Will he be back in time to join us?
Alexei asks hopefully. No, darling. Your Papa has been talking to many people, and those people have been helping us spread a special message to all of the Vedrus settlements.
I bet Papa will be disappointed he can't join us,
says Alexei glumly. But think how proud he'll be of you, you say, smiling brightly at your son. Alexei beams as he thinks of his father and says,
When do we go?
Let's get our ponies and go now. In the next moment, you're both back in your bodies. Alexei whistles loudly, two distinctly different sounds. In moments, a pony and a small horse come galloping down a path from a meadow bordering the forest. Each pony has a slender rope at the base of its neck, just above their withers. They stand attentively waiting, but still manage to playfully nip each other like a couple of squabbling children whenever possible. Whistling to his pony, a plump dapple-gray mare appears beneath a tree swishing her tail as Alexei swings down from a branch and lands squarely on her back. You jump nimbly onto your own steed, a bay pony, almost as tall as a horse, with a broad chest and rump and round belly. Except for the fact that your hair is now long and in braids, you could easily pass for a young boy as you did several years earlier. Imitating the dress of Vedrus children, you wear a simple knee-length tunic belted at the waist. and you have flowers woven into your braided hair. You are so petite and small-breasted, you appear to be no more than 11 or 12 years old. Riding a large pony adds to the illusion. In a satchel that lays across your pony's withers, you've packed water, fruit, and a small bottle of oil that has been pressed from pine nuts and herbal flowers. Using nothing more than the string around your pony's necks, you and Alexei ride quietly through the forest until you're just above the Roman camp, but still hidden by dense undergrowth. You leave your ponies and set off at a quick pace on a trail leading downhill to the edge of the meadow, now buried beneath Roman soldiers and equipment. As you walk, you speak quietly to Alexei. All you have to do is keep saying that we're here because our parents are busy at a festival, so we're here with a message for the commander. If anyone tries to talk to me and I have to respond, keep arguing with me. Keep saying that you're the one who's supposed to deliver the message. The less I talk, the better, you add with an inscrutable smile. The Romans won't expect us to know their language.
But, Mama, we can speak and understand any language, can't they?
No, darling.
You mean their parents only speak to them in one language? They don't grow up speaking all different languages the way we do?
Well, most people only speak the language of their own country, and that's why they would never think that we would know a language other than our own. We will understand everything they say, but they'll assume we know nothing, so don't use too many of their words. But when we talk to the commander, here's what you'll say. Our parents are too busy to come, but they want you to know there's a storm coming and you need to go and never come back. Can you remember that? Alexei nods his head vigorously, barely able to contain his enthusiasm for getting to play such a fun game. Before you reach the meadow, a Roman soldier steps out from behind a tree with his sword drawn, yelling, "Halt!" Seeing you're only children, he motions for you to go back up the path. Instead of obeying, Alexei yells loudly, "Message for Commander! We," he adds, putting his palm to his chest, "have message! Commander, message!" Alexei plays his part with such conviction, the soldier finally takes you into the camp. You hold Alexei's hand, and just like siblings, you jostle and push at each other, a pinch here, an elbow there. You make faces at each other, and when one of you gets ahead, the other tries to take the lead without getting into trouble with the guard. One part of you is playing with your son while holding an image of yourself as 11 years old. Another part of you, your second self, is floating above the Roman camp, taking in everything that is being said, done, or thought. You know you're being perceived as a young girl by the soldiers who see you. You can easily read their minds. You also see a dark cloud looming in the distance. In your mind, you focus on the cloud, then imagine it right above the camp, beckoning for it to come closer. Though there isn't even a hint of a breeze, the cloud formation begins to move. If any of the soldiers had been looking up at the sky, they might have wondered why the massive cloud was so dark amidst such a clear blue sky. Finally, you reach the platform outside the commander's tent. From within, you hear the commander bellowing,
"What is it now? I sent orders for the elders to pay tribute. You're telling me they sent a couple of children?"
Standing massive in the doorway of the tent, looming menacingly above you and Alexei, a tall, cloaked man with a stern, ominous face surveys you sphinx-like from beneath dark jetting brows. Bright sunlight glints harshly on his hawk-nosed face as he hisses to a soldier.
When they've delivered their message, we'll take them as slaves.
Then, with an angry sweep of his arm, he seizes his cloak and swings it dramatically round as he strides menacingly up to you. With a haughty smirk, he says scornfully,
Your parents were supposed to come and pay tribute. Tell me, little girl, why have they sent 2 children?
You stand with your head down and peer up at the man as if you're extremely shy.
Our parents are busy. Wait,
Yells Alexei.
I'm supposed to give the message. It's my turn. You got to give the message last time.
Back and forth you squabble as ominous, roiling black clouds draw closer and closer.
Stop!
Bellows the commander. Alexei looks questioningly at you as you give him a slight nod.
Our parents are too busy to come,
He says decisively.
They're at a festival, and they want you to know there's a storm coming and you need to go and never come back again.
In that moment, several things happen. You pull a bottle of oil out of your pocket and pour it on Alexei's head and on your own head. The repulsive odor is so repugnant, the commander and the guards surrounding you take an involuntary step backwards. The black cloud formation is now hovering directly over the camp, blocking the sun, causing everything to darken as a deep, disturbing hum vibrates through the camp. Suddenly screaming and yelling can be heard throughout the camp as the commander and soldiers are attacked by millions of bees as they descend upon every person and creature in the area. Soldiers try tearing off their armor as horses buck and rear, pulling out the stakes they're tethered to and galloping away unencumbered by armor or riders. In the ensuing pandemonium, you hold Alexei's hand and you slip away unnoticed. Despite the wild chaos in the camp, Alexei's piercing whistle catches the pony's attention. They gallop down the path, across the meadow and into a safe pocket around you and Alexei, created by the stench of the oil that you have now wiped onto your arms and legs. The ponies skid to a halt. You help Alexei onto his pony and then jump onto your own. No one tries to stop you as you gallop through the camp and into the woods. Finally, you reach the cliff and can see the valley below. Alexei surveys the frenzied chaos at the Roman camp and says grimly,
Now they look like mad ants.
Yes, they do, you agree, looking at your son proudly.
I bet that Caesar person will think twice before sending his soldiers back here again.
I'll bet you're right, you say, smiling broadly, ruffling your son's hair. That night, as a full moon rises above the treetops and shimmers over your pond, a tired but ecstatically happy Alexei falls comfortably asleep in your welcoming arms as you sing him a lullaby. Just moments later, a horse and rider emerge from the dappled moonlight on the forest path and into clear view. A tall, handsome, powerful-looking man dismounts and embraces you while kissing your sleeping son on his head. No words are necessary. As his second self, he had seen everything that happened that day, and from his perspective, there were thousands of invisible Vedras who communicated their desires to their bees. Though the Vedras, as their second selves, were invisible to the Romans, the bees saw them clearly, and each hive followed its master, in some cases for many, many miles, until they converged at the outskirts of the camp and created a massive cloud. Then all of the Vedras combined their thoughts with your image of the bees hovering over the camp, and the cloud moved accordingly. Though the Romans never saw them, the Vedras were prepared to show up in physical form if anything had gone wrong on the battlefield, or if you and Alexei had been taken captive. Alexei's proud father lays the sleeping boy on his chest and wraps his arm around you, kissing you tenderly as nature sings its nighttime lullabies and moonlight sparkles diamonds on the dew-tipped grass.